Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. We're on episode 143, and I always love to start by saying thank you. I feel so very blessed by this podcast, all the people it reaches, all the messages I receive on a weekly basis. And, I just, my objective of this podcast was really to simplify spirituality and to guide people on their spiritual journey. So I feel so blessed that I get to do that. And I'm super excited about this episode. I am going to be introducing the person that introduced me to the Akashic Records on a human level, um, which led to the beginning of this podcast, which has led to so many amazing things for me. And I'm probably going to get a surname wrong, but introducing Ashley Hämäläinen, Ashley Hämäläinen. Ashley, you tell me what it is. I forgot it already, but it's beautiful.
Hämäläinen. Thank you,
Hämäläinen.
Hamish.
How beautiful that is. So, Ashley, I'd
Yes.
love for you to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I am honored and grateful. My name is Ashley Hämäläinen. I live in Howe Sound, Canada, which is just outside of West Vancouver. It's technically West Vancouver, but we live on the Pacific Ocean on the southernmost fjord in the whole world. So I'm surrounded by mountains and islands, and this mountain is a rainforest. And I'm a mother of two, a 7 year old, and he's 9 months today, actually. So, yeah. And yes, it's been an honor to share the Akashic Records with thousands of people by this point through my company, Align Within. The way that they came to me, similar to how you said I introduced them to you in the physical in this life. But those of us who are called to work with the records have a connection to them and understand them. And it just makes sense when we hear the word Akashic. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, what's that? It's like the bell that rings true. What's that? And then you become curious and you want to learn more. And there's a facilitator planted in front of all of us to walk us to the path that has always been there for us. And so I'm grateful that I was able to be that for you and that you're opening that door now for so many more people.
I love it. I love it. And I was guided to the records too. I'm sure some of the listeners have heard this before, but Sarah Jeffrey, my mentor friend, who kind of helped me to really understand the healer I am, she passed away in March 2020, and she's the one that, as my guide, who's very persistent, kept asking me to connect with the Akashic Records, and that's led me to your podcast. It led me to your online training, and honestly, I wasn't planning to read anyone else's records. I wanted to understand mine. I wanted to understand my connection to Sidra, my soul contract with her. But it was such a beautiful connected process that I just read for friends and now I've read for thousands. It really has changed my life. And I agree in terms of, as facilitators, as you call it, I believe the soul already knows how to connect to the records. It's natural. It's something that we know at a deep level. Just the humans sometimes need guiding, and that's what I really feel we do when we facilitate people to connect with the records. And yeah, it's just a beautiful journey. So I'd love to know more about your journey in terms of how the records and have impacted you and kind of what are you doing in today's world?
Yeah, for sure. So the records, my journey with them has changed, shifted, and changed so much since I first received them, which was back in 2018, I believe. So I was born with incredibly strong psychic gifts, very strong. Just I could tell that I saw the world differently from those around me. Um, I now give deep gratitude to everyone who was around me as a teacher to me and just hold so much love and respect. But as a child and a teenager, and even in my 20s, I really didn't understand why I could see things, hear things, and know things that other people couldn't, except for my grandmother. My grandmother also had this gift, and she left Earth plane when I was in my early 20s, and I didn't talk to her about it a lot. I talked to her about it sometimes, but I spent a lot of time trying to run away from it, trying to cover it up, trying to stuff it away because I just wanted to be normal and to feel like the rest of the people around me. And so when I became pregnant with my daughter, that became impossible. I couldn't. There's something that happens when you're carrying a soul inside, especially a strong soul that is a guide. I tell her every day that she brought my magic back because as soon as I was pregnant with her, all of a sudden I couldn't ignore my gifts. Like I remember I was just hearing things, seeing spirits in the house, just knowing so much. And I remember being like, just turn off, just shut off. Like
Hmm.
I don't want this, just go away. But then coincidentally, but not because nothing's a coincidence.
For
I
sure.
lost my job while I was pregnant, and I was told that when she was born, I could either come back to work at 3 months postpartum, full time, or not have a job at all. And I live in Canada, where at the time I would have had a year-long maternity leave paid. At this point, I think it's 2 years, but I it was an immediate no for me that I would not put her into childcare at 3 months and go back to work. I said, this is just so obvious to me that I'm being put on another path. So I remember being on my hands and knees crying and calling out to the universe and finally accepting myself and my gifts and accepting things for the first time. And I just said out loud, like, show me what to do and I'll do it. Just show me what to do and I'll do it. I will follow
Love it.
because
Surrender.
somehow I need to stay home and take care of this baby, but also bring in an income. And so show me something that will work in this way, and I'll do it. And I started to get little messages here and there. And then following these messages was not something I was used to doing. I was doing it already, but not in the way that I would call it following messages. And I feel that this is what everyone is doing
Yeah.
oftentimes. Like they'll be like, I don't know why I did this, but I did. Or I don't know why I went here, but I did. And so I had been following messages and I also knew inside what felt out of alignment and what felt in alignment. But this was the beginning of learning more about that. And I remember I was guided to do little things like hold cooking classes. And then I was guided to sell ebooks, recipes. And at the time I was a food blogger. So I would follow this guidance and then money would come in. And I
Hmm.
remember selling an ebook, easy to make, and then like $200 came in or something. And at that time, that was a big deal for me. I was like, I just made $200. Like, what? Um, and then the guidance started coming through of, and now you're going to talk about the experiences that you have. Like, now this is going to happen. And I remember feeling so afraid, so afraid. But I had made a commitment and a promise that I would do exactly what came through. I wasn't going to start deciding which message
Yeah.
I'd take and which I wouldn't. So I was guided, like you, to start a podcast. And I remember the second episode of that podcast, I just sat down, held my breath, closed my eyes, pressed record, and I think my eyes were closed the whole time. And I just told stories. So when this happened, this happened. Da, da, da.
Hmm.
And I was blown away by how beautiful it was received. Somehow, every person I had ever known listened to it, like everyone from my small hometown and everyone I had gone to university with. Somehow, it just the frequency carried to like everyone. I felt like everyone who's ever known me. And
Wow.
interestingly enough, that episode really was the first opening to the records, but I didn't know because someone who I had grown up with sent me a message about, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Edward and then Cacyr or something like that. I can't remember.
Hmm.
I can't
Not sure.
remember, but
Hmm.
And I could even have the first name wrong, but I'm just remembering now that's someone who worked with the records back in the early 1900s, I think. And I remember reading the message and it like stuck out to me like this is important. But I let it go, let it be. And then after some time, so I started the podcast in 2018, and a couple months into it, I interviewed someone who said to me, like I'm hearing your story and the records, that would be like you'd really resonate with them. Like this would be good for you to do. So she gave me the book title, I can't even remember the book title, but it was by Linda Howe.
Yeah.
And I went
Mhm.
out that day and bought the book, came home, read the first, I don't know, 1/3 of the book. And it was an instant remembering. Like I was just like, I know all of
Wow.
this. Like
Mm.
I know this. This is a remembering. And then I was told, I heard very clearly, put it away. So I did. I closed the book and I put it away. It's gone. It vanished and I don't know where it went. I've
Wow.
since moved so many houses, moved so many times. It's never turned up again. It's gone.
Yeah.
So if
Served
it
its
was taken
purpose.
from me,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's good because through my experience with the records, which going in for the very first time was a homecoming, like it was a total remembering. And then through like yourself reading for, I don't think I reached thousands of people, but I read for hundreds of people. Um, my own prayer came through, but I don't really want to call it my prayer, but a prayer came through me, a sound frequency to use. We developed a training based on how it came through me, many workshops, other trainings, how to use light language in the Akashic Records, and of course, my company, Align Within, and then training other people how to use the Akashic Records, and they've become our readers. And some of our readers, like yourself, like you're not one of a Align Within reader, but it's amazing to hear now that our
Yeah.
students and have now read for thousands of people, which is just so incredible. But what has happened and the way that I work with the records has transformed over time as well in a huge way. At the beginning, it was one way, and then the channeling changed, and then I started using a lot of light language. And now I see the Akashic Records as a script.
Mm.
It's the script to our life, and we can't get it wrong. Like the
Yeah.
channeling cannot be done wrong. It's the script. But when you think of a movie set, which is our life is a movie, and you think of the movie set, you have the what you see on the screen, which is essentially what the Akashic records are. But then behind that, there's all of the preparation for the movie. There's the writing of the script. There's the characters. There's the cast. There's the cut scenes. There's sometimes it takes like it took I
Yeah.
think that Avatar movie 10 years to make or something, so we don't get to see any of that. That's the
Yeah.
mystery. And so when we go
Because we were
into the
meant to.
records,
Mm.
yeah, we're reading the script. We're just getting what's there. But then there's the mystery of life that's outside of
Yeah.
it. And to me, seeing the records in that way, it's something has just is such a subtle change, and yet it's such a change that, as you said, everyone can connect to it.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's our messages, it's our guidance, and it's our script of life. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah. I love the way you describe it. And I'm sure a lot of people resonate with, that feeling of being connected to something but being scared of it and then wanting to fit in. And, the way you describe surrendering and it's just beautiful when you surrender to the world and what opens up to you. And, my journey with the records is the way I see it now is the way I describe it is always it's it gives you an insight into every your soul's journey, current life, past life, future life, prior life, everything about you. But as you say, there's only so much you can receive at one time, right? Like the script at the moment. So I feel like it's whoever I'm reading for, give me access to the soul. I'm channeling through their guides and telling them a message of their current script of what they need to hear. Not always what they want to hear, but what they need to hear because I'm not really there. I'm a vessel. I'm sharing message to them from their guides, and honestly, it's the closest I feel to source. It's the I really, it's a time when I don't feel like I'm there in as a human. I'm there as a soul, but the way I see the records now is everything and everywhere. It's like an energy in essence, and yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but I do believe that everyone in some way has already access to records, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through channeling, whether it's through, as you described it, using your intuition, right? Sometimes you make a decision and you're like, wait, did I make that decision? You know, you followed your instinct. Where does that come from? Yes, it comes from your guides, but I also feel there's in some way you've connected with the records because at soul level, it's a natural connection. And I'll always be. I know we talked about it before, and you described, you said you're a facilitator, but without you facilitating, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I just wanted to say thank you for the ripple effect of what you did because sure, I took your online course and I tweaked it to what works for me. Um, but this podcast wouldn't exist without me connecting with the records. You know, the mentorship program I do wouldn't exist without touched, I know thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives. And I do feel very blessed with the work I get to do. Um, and somehow I feel protective over the records. I know the records don't do protecting, but for me, they're very sacred. There's something I got to connect with and a gift I got to receive that I get to share with so many. And even this podcast, I share a monthly message channel through the records, and it just seems to have an impact. And yeah, I feel very, very blessed with it. So thank you. Um, I, so there's probably, I feel like there's a lot of people right now who are and relate to maybe not feeling like something's changing in them, feeling like something is happening around them. They don't fully understand it, but not really feeling connected as they used to be. And it's like so many conversations I have where people do feel a little bit lost is probably the wrong word, but can feel change happening around them.
Mhm.
And what would your advice be to these people as through your journey? What have you learned that maybe help some of our listeners on their journey?
Well, there is a lot of change happening right now. Um, we just experienced one of the largest geomagnetic storms in, well, I think it was 2001 or 2003. So I look at my children and I'm like, especially my daughter who's older, I'm like, you've never felt energy like this before. Like, we saw the aurora over our home in the most beautiful way. And when these solar storms happen, which they've been happening now for a couple of years in an intensified way, that's light codes being showered down to this planet. And the sun can be, it can be a polarizing energy in that it can create a lot of anger and division, too much heat, a lot of solar heat, sunburns,
Exactly.
or it can open our consciousness. And the energies that I mainly channel in the Akashic Records and the guides that I work with the most, they have shared with me that they are essentially the gatekeepers of the records, and they're called the pinnacle, Pleiadian energy. Now, the Akashic Records, as you said, they're everywhere, they're everything. It's the quantum field. Um, but the way they've shown it to me as well is they're like, you do live in the physical, and so they need to be stored somewhere, and that's in the star cluster, the Pleiades. And humans have had a connection to that star cluster since the beginning of time. You can find connections to it in every culture. I just found a piece of art from, I think, 17,000 years ago, and it's like a carving in a cave of a farmer, and then the Pleiades. And
Wow.
it's everywhere. So we can't deny that we've held a connection to this incredibly far away, distant star cluster that is actually, we can see it all around the world in the sky, but they're so faint. It's not like one of these other brighter stars like Sirius or even Orion's belt or anything. It's so small, and yet that little cluster, it's actually massive. They're massive,
Oh,
massive
yeah,
stars.
we
They're
can
just
see.
so far
Hmm.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it was on the solstice in 2023, December 21st. I was in the records and channeling for my husband, actually. And all of a sudden, the pinnacle came to me and they started talking to me, but him as well. I was like channeling for him, but they were also talking to me. And they were like, Ashley, we're not any different from you. There's no separation. We come from the same energy. We're made from the absolute. We're one. We're just not physical, and we can guide you because we're from the other side. But there's no difference here. We're one. And they gave me this permission almost to receive guidance from everything and everyone around me. It again, it was the most subtle shift that just opened things differently for me. And 3 days later, I had the most profound spiritual awakening I've had in my life so far. It was a total remembering of oneness, of the source within us. It changed me for forever. It's almost like I woke up, like I'd been seeing and knowing and receiving and feeling, but suddenly it was just different and so clear.
Wow.
And
That's
so,
magical.
yeah. So for those who are feeling like something is changing, but there's a loss of connection, just come back to the present moment. It's so simple. And I like that at the beginning you said you made this podcast to simplify spirituality. Spirituality is peeling back the layers of who we are not so we can remember who we are. And that is love. It's just love. It's love on the inside, the source of love within the inside, the presence. And that light is within everyone and everything. And so come back to the present moment always. And present moment doesn't just mean being still and allowing the mind to run off in every visualization, imagination possible. The mind is the ego,
Yeah.
and it can just run programs and circles and get us into a lot of trouble. So come back to the present moment and just practice emptying the mind, practice stilling the mind, and just witnessing and seeing that we're not actually separate from one another in the way
Yeah.
that we're being told that we're different, that you and I are different right now because you're a man and I'm a woman, because of your age and my age, because of your skin color and my skin color, because of where you live and where I live, because you read the records one way and I read them this way. These are all ways of expressing an energy, but we're actually one. We're one energy.
Yeah. Mm.
And so just coming back to the present moment and breathing through whatever comes up in that moment. This is also how you'll receive from the records. We teach a practice called the line activation, which is a free practice. You can put a link in the show notes. It's free. It brings you back into the present. There's breathing that will balance your masculine, feminine energies within solar, lunar, whatever you want to call it. Prepare your nervous system for awakening. It We sit now for it always, so the spine is always straight, so that the Kundalini energy has space to move up and down. And we also practice an emptying exercise at the beginning so that the mind can be still. So when the messages come through, you're receiving them without attachment. Because when messages come through, our mind likes to attach right away to, okay, I'm going to take action on that, and then it's going to come out this way, and then this is going to happen, and
It's the
then this is going to happen.
expectations. Yeah.
And 100% of the time, it will turn out differently.
Yeah.
And so, to avoid disappointment and to avoid getting yourself again in
Couldn't agree
trouble in
more.
the mind, just practice a line activation, come into this still moment, come into the present, receive with an open heart, and things will change for you. It is that simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's just so simple of remembering that what you're going through right now, you're not going through it alone. Everyone else is feeling a shift and change. Those who are conscious to it, they're feeling a shift and a change. And those who are not are also feeling a shift and a change. It's
Sure.
just different
Yeah.
because we're ascending as a human community, as a human race. So it's all okay. It's all perfect. It's divine. It's all okay.
And I love the way that you describe it's all okay, it's simple, because I really do think spirituality is simple. I
Mhm.
I get whatever healing we've chosen to do in this lifetime as a soul, that could be intense. But if you look back over the last few years, how much control do we really have? We have. The only thing that we really can focus on is this moment, being present in this moment. Because what if the universe has plans for us that we could not even imagine? But also, really be honest with yourself over the last few years. Could you have imagined everything you've been through? We don't have control. But you talk about December, I really do feel that a lot of people have been feeling the energetic shifts since December, and a lot of karmic cycles closing, a lot of things that's just shifting. And the more that we resist it, the more it is becomes harder. The more that we can, acceptance is always a big part. The more that we can accept that everything is happening to us is serving us some kind of way. It is the universe supporting us in some kind of way. And I always recommend people to just spend 10 minutes silence every day. And a lot of people say, well, I can't meditate. Just the way you described it, it's about just becoming present, and it's a muscle, right? You can't go to the gym one time and all of a sudden you have a six pack, right? You've got to do something regularly to. And it's like if you just practice being present in the moment, if a thought comes through, let it come, let it go, let it come, let it go. Because if you give it energy, is your ego going to kick in, right? So I will definitely include in the show notes. Actually, I used to do that every day. For some reason, I stopped doing it. So I will, the line activation I'll include in the show notes. I would highly recommend, try it for 21 days. Try it consistently for a period. And, everything we need is inside us, right? And it's just finding that patience, that peace to be at present with yourself helps you on your journey. And maybe in some way it'll help you connect to the records and it'll help you to
Yeah.
connect with your answers. So thank you. Thank you. I love that. So, and I love how you described what you received in December, that that message. Is there anything more that you can share in terms of how that felt, in terms of, you realizing that just what does that feel like receiving a message like that?
Yeah. It was waking up to who we truly are. Because, as I said at the beginning of my story, I felt so different from everyone around me as a child. Like, I felt like I have memories where I would, even this was in my 20s, where I would be walking in the city that I used to live in with some friends, and we'd be on, I remember this one memory, and we were on a bridge, and I just stopped and I'm like, can you feel the wind? Can you just feel that? And then remembering what my friends looked at me like, what? I'm like, just feel that. So I have so many of these memories. And I used to feel like I am different. And this is something that we can feel when we're coming home to
Yeah.
ourselves. But what happened on the 25th was seeing that we are all one, seeing it, feeling it, knowing it, feeling that, witnessing the soul from a greater place. I wasn't just in the soul, I wasn't just in the records. I was seeing beyond that. Seeing it's like I became the mountains outside, the sky, the universe, everything. I was one with everything and everyone. And I looked at my son and there was no separation. And I looked at my husband and there was no separation. And I remember going to the grocery store a few days later and I was in love with everyone there because everyone was was me and I was everyone. And I just saw every human in the grocery store. I'm like, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. At first, it was very emotional and it has grounded since, but that knowing
Wow.
that feeling has not gone away. And I know that it has it just feels like I don't even have a word for it.
Wow.
Home. Truth, ultimate truth, real. So everything that we teach at Align Within is being renovated, is the word that I've been given, because the foundation is there, the basics, the as you renovate a home. Like if I were to
Yeah.
renovate this room, I might knock down the walls or take out the carpet or something, but the boards will still remain
Foundation.
and
Yeah.
the foundation's there, but everything's being refilmed and like I just finished Release Fear and Know Your Soul. So it's brand new, like brand new modules, brand new material, brand new content, brand new line activations, brand new videos. So it's a bit of a service, as we have many workshops and trainings, but they're all being done one by one, step by step.
Wow.
And the line activation too, if you revisit it, the video, it's different. It's a breathing practice that I used throughout my pregnancy to help my body and my energy, because carrying my son was really challenging. It was hard on my system. And but he was a guide, like just sharing so much with me and teaching me about quantum manifestation, which we now teach as well. Um, but it felt like love, love in a way, homecoming, truth, real. And suddenly everything was connected. It's what every religion, every spiritual practice, everything leads back to the source of oneness. Everything. Even Jesus Christ taught dissolving of himself to be in love and service with one. And when you look at the like a book like the Bible, for example, in this way, and you see through all of how it's written, and you see it's all there. It's all there in everything. And it's like a light turned on for me. And then suddenly I see life with joy and curiosity and stillness and presence, and that everything is perfect. In the past, I would have pressure on myself, maybe like, Ashley, do more. Or if as I was saying before we started recording, I used to work myself very hard because I it was in service. Like
Yeah.
I felt I'm here to do this. But so much of that also came from the ego of validation of
Yeah.
it just wasn't um, pure. And now there's no pressure. If something happens, it happens. It's perfect. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's perfect. It's the source working through me as me, and everything is perfect. There's just this lightness and gentleness and love and wholeness, and it feels like home.
Wow. Wow. I mean, the way you describe it, coming home, no matter what the question, the answer is always love. We are all one, right? It's that, we're all a vibration, we're all energy, and it's just everyone has a knowingness of it.
Yeah,
Um, everyone, as you say, a lot of religions talk about it. Most people, I guess, would agree that, ultimately we are connected in some kind of way. Vibrationally, we're connected. But it's really interesting in terms of, as humans, we want to belong, right? As we go through all this programming, we try to fit in. As you described in your younger years, you wanted to fit in, and you know, but I don't. As humans, I don't really believe we're meant to fit in, because we are here on our own journey. But in all essence, we all are connected, and we all are one energy, one vibration. I love it. You just feel energy and vibrationally, energetically, you just feel at peace.
I am at
And
peace.
I think it's so beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with, back in the day you were describing, Because sometimes when you're on a mission, when you're on purpose, you feel like somehow you're going to miss something, you're going to let somebody down, or you're going to do something, and it's just, I mean, time is a human concept, right? What's missing?
Yeah. And also, that was part of the journey, and we
Sure.
all must move through our journey. I don't look back and think I did wrong or anything. It was just part of the journey, and we all have to taste all the different flavors of existence before finding this peace. And I'm now on a new path of even deepening it, but it has come now to the point where it's just a different feeling and seeing. Like if a fear comes up, it no longer is something that will become me. It's more like an idea that's out here. That's the same as an idea of, will I go on a podcast with Nimesh today? Like they're all here and I get to decide what I feed or not. And if
Yeah.
not, the fear is just there. And then I can work with it and release it in a different way. So it's just yeah. But the soul loves to be unique. And I think that's also, the soul is unique. I think that's very special and it's very beautiful because we've all come in with our own gifts, with our own ways that the source, the light shines through us. And it's all important. It's all necessary because we're all mirrors to one another. We're all teachers to one another. We are all one, but we guide one another. And so for the soul to be unique, that's all part of the plan. It's perfect in itself. It's just that when the ego comes in and says, "But I'm different from you. I'm different. We are all the same. We're all on the same path. We're all one family." But it's like a pot of soup. Vegetables are all vegetables, but it would be very boring if we just had one vegetable taste. Like we need all the tastes, we
Yeah.
need all the flavors. And yet you would look at it and say, well, those are vegetables.
But they all perform a role, right? And everyone has a role to play, and no one person's role is any more or less important than anyone else's.
Mhm.
It's all part of, even ego has a role to play to try and keep you safe. Um, but you just got to recognize that you don't need to be kept safe, right? You're on a journey to truly just accept that, the way I like to think about it is we're all students. If something happens to me, okay, let me get curious about it. How is this meant to serve me? Well, how is it expanding me? And it's just like, when anyone that says to me they're fully healed, I was kind of like, I'm skeptical because I feel like I'm going to be healing in some kind of way all my life, right? I'm always going to be learning, expanding, um, and I feel blessed with that. I want to continue to learn. I want to continue to expand. That's why I'm here, right? That's part of this human. I've chosen as a soul to be here as a human, and surely that includes going on our human journey to truly learn and continue to expand.
Yes. This is where I've seen the difference now because I too used to be so skeptical and I'm like, there is no end. But I had this experience, was it the 27th of December? I can't remember, where we were driving and I was looking up at the mountains, and suddenly within maybe 2 seconds, it was so fast, 2 seconds, I was I saw my soul being created and my soul dissolving at the exact same time. Because, as you said earlier, time is just a human concept, but at the same time, time is different for every human.
Yeah.
Like, I think of time for my daughter, an hour for her is going to be different for an hour for us, which is going to be
Very
different for
true.
an hour for my cat, which is going to be different for an hour for a housefly that might only live for 1 hour. Time is different for everybody, and time 1 hour for me may feel different than 1 hour for you. And so when you come out of this physical dimension, non physical dimension, when you can find even more space away from that, when you can be in the absolute that created the physical and non physical dimensions, I was seeing from a different place. And I was seeing the moment my soul was created, it also dissolved back. Like it was created from the absolute. I saw all the multi dimensions that it goes through this journey. and then it was dissolved back. And then I that's how it was 2 seconds. And I remember it was just so emotional. And it took me time to catch up in the physical of like, what did I just see? Wow. And being able to just touch for a millisecond of what happens when you actually do reach the end, when the soul has completed the journey. Because I used to believe that the soul was infinite.
Mhm.
I used to feel the records are infinite, the soul is infinite, but the soul is finite. It does have an end where it returns to the absolute. And the records are similar to if you're on a beach and there's the sand, and every little piece of sand is information that you can get in the records, but the beach will end. Like there's one side on each side. So that too is infinite, because or that too is finite, because it
Yeah.
only pertains to that one soul. And so being able to touch for a moment of it does come to an end. The healing does end, depending on the path of the soul, the level of the consciousness, but then also just the shattering of the illusion for me that enlightenment is not real. It is there is a point where you come and those illusions just fall, and then the ego is it falls and the soul is free, and it's beautiful. But the path is beautiful. We're meant to heal, we're meant to grow. We come into this experience to move through everything, and the mind and the ego get triggered by these things. They're like, well, no, I'm going to hold on to you forever. But they can't.
Mm.
There will
No,
be a
that's the
point
point.
where they have to
Yep.
let go. Yeah, but the learning and the healing and the growing is all a part of it. And life is a celebration. It's a blessing. The whole journey is a celebration. And so, yeah, I used to feel though that that was one of the biggest changes actually that I experienced this past December, was that the soul is finite, and I used to believe it was infinite, and it was an illusion shattering
Wow.
and a truth, like a capital T truth, that I was like, I never saw it, but it's right here. But it's something that can be logically known, but until it's
Yeah.
felt, it
There's an
was so different.
acceptance.
Yeah,
Wow. I love the way you
yeah,
describe it. I've never truly I've always known this human journey is just part of my soul's journey. And also I also believe that the soul would get to a point where I agree actually the healing is complete and the soul evolves into whatever's next. So I've never been able to describe it in the words that you use. So that's
I felt it.
beautifully put. And it's just
Yeah,
it is a truth. I know through the records I've experienced my soul creation, I guess is what they were trying to show me. Um, there was just a nothingness to it. There was just I, but so much magic. It was just like a celebration of a creation of a soul. I was experiencing everything and nothing all at the same time.
yeah. And that's what it is, everything and nothing,
And
the
it was just
absolute.
like, wow, wow.
What's so
I love,
interesting is that whole time I was talking and then you were talking, my clock has been stuck on May 15th, 11:55. But more than a minute has passed. It hasn't moved. 1 5. It just moved now.
wow,
It was 1 5 1 1 5 5, and now it's 1 5
wow,
1 1 5 6.
wow. It just shows
It's
times.
just a time.
I
It
think universe was just like, all right, let me show you time is just a human concept. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it because oh my God, it's such a beautiful, magical conversation. And I guess how could we guide people to, sure do the line within process but is there any other advice you have in terms of because right now people are feeling pain, right? People are feeling pain, maybe the wrong word. People are feeling different. People are feeling change, as we talked about earlier. some people are taking that as anger externally, and some people are choosing to heal within. And there's no right or wrong. Everybody's on their own journey, and it is what it is, right? But is there any advice, any other advice you give to people just to help them to accept the journey they're on, and that the pain in some way is part of their journey?
Yeah, we can't heal without pain. We have to taste the suffering. We have to feel. We have to feel everything. And if you're not feeling, your heart's closed. And so if you're feeling, your heart is open. And that's a blessing. And it will get lighter. But we have so much that we have to release first. And it can feel sometimes like you're, what is that called, where the snake is biting the tail and it's just going round and round and round and round? It can
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like we're just in this,
Chasing our
in
tail.
this, yeah,
Mm.
where it's like I healed that, I felt that, now it's back. I feel so much pain, now it's back. I look out of the world and I feel so much pain for my brothers and sisters. But we must feel at the same time accepting the divine plan and accepting that everything's perfect in this moment. And that can be triggering for people. But we mustn't point our hands at anyone else, point fingers at anyone else unless our own hands are clean. Come back to self. I read a beautiful quote the other day that the world is not going to change through activism, but through realization. And realization can only come from coming within and doing that work within and coming back to love so that you can see through the eyes of love to others and to see that there is no other actually. It's all one. But to accept that the pain is part of the process. The pain is part of the experience because we have so much to release. We have had thousands of lives. We have gone through thousands of experiences. And all of that is coming up right now because the earth is being cleansed. The human community is being cleansed. And if you or I did a juice cleanse for 5 days, unless you've been eating pristinely clean, it's not going to be comfortable. We can do these cleanses in this way and
Yeah.
accept the fact that physical detox, if we're doing some kind of cleanse, is okay. It's like, well, no, but it's the same for the energy. It's the same when we're detoxing our energy. Since having my son, when I was pregnant with him, I've called him my purification. He's my purifier. He is the greatest healer I have had. Like I told my daughter, she brought my magic back, and my son is the holy fire.
Wow.
He's a triple Leo. He was born on the Leo new moon. Sun was in Leo. His Venus is Leo. He's just a fireball. And um, through carrying him, I gained 70 pounds, even though I ate the same, like nothing changed. My skin had real challenges. And since birthing him, my skin is still not clear. And I've noticed it is hormonal, of course, but I've noticed this connection that if I'm energetically healing something or if something is coming up, my skin will flare up. The other night, things came up in the middle of the night that I started to process and deal with, and my face hurt. And sometimes we need these physical reminders that
Yeah.
our body is a vessel for our energetic healing and that it all does clear up. It's all temporary. Everything,
100%.
it's the thing, what I just shared, how the soul begins and ends. Everything in the physical and non physical has a beginning and an end. Even our sun is going to blow up one day. Everything has a beginning and an end. So,
Yeah.
whatever you're going through right now, it is going to pass.
Yeah. This
If
too
you
shall
can
pass. Mm.
yeah, if you can witness it and see your emotions, which are not you, your thoughts, which are not you, your experiences, which are not you, as moving through you, moving past, but you are the stillness behind it. That's the true you. And so, even in times when you don't know what to do and everything hurts so much and you're not clear on your guidance and it feels so hard, just be present and breathe and be patient. It's going to change. It's bound to change. Everything changes.
Yeah.
And so let it change and release control.
So powerful. I mean, ultimately, the only constant is change, right? And that's
Yeah.
the more we fight it. And it's interesting as humans, sometimes naturally we don't like change, but the only constant is change. And so powerful to say, you know what, this is going to change. This too shall change. And it's that
Yeah.
knowing that whatever you're going through, just be in the moment. If you're loving life right now, great. Be present and love it in the moment. If you're going through some challenges, love it. Be in the moment. But I love also what you say about your body, because I really do believe that sometimes we look for fixes and answers outside ourselves, and everything we need is inside ourselves. Our body gives so much of a clue, it's a vessel of our soul, and it's just
Yeah.
sometimes when we just stop to listen to the messages,
Yeah.
that's in those quiet times, that's when we get the answers, right? And it's like listening
Hmm.
to your body. So for our listeners, if you are going through some physical challenges, just stop and maybe just listen, connect to your body, and what are you feeling? Maybe you start to get some answers that way. Um, Actually, I could talk to you for hours. There's like so much, like a depth of knowledge you have that it's just like wow. But I'd love to know more about, if somebody wanted to work with you. I know you said you recreating all your amazing courses, and I've taken a few myself, by the way. Um, but if somebody wanted to work with you, guidance, I can definitely link your websites, etc., in the show notes. But can you share what's happening in your world right now and what people
Yes.
can expect?
Yes. So come to our membership program called Guided. The reason Guided is different than a lot of memberships is that you're not a number or a member. I see you and I know your name. We have hundreds at this point of people in Guided, and I know it's going to grow to thousands very soon. And when you are a member of our Guided program, you have access to all of our workshops and trainings. So they're all there for you. You have a community who they're in contact every week. Like we have a Telegram group, two of them actually, one for Guided, one for all Align Within. So even if you're not wanting to come to Guided, it's free. Come to Telegram. Um, but our community is they talk to each other every day. It's like one big family, and there are hundreds of people in there, and beautiful friendships have been made. And we've had retreats in Panama and Finland over the past few years, and people who met on these retreats then go on trips together, and like friendships are formed. And I say, if you are looking for your spiritual community and your spiritual best friends, they're here and Guided. And so, along with the community, that support and all of our workshops and trainings, there's also accountability. So every month we work through a workshop together, and then there are gatherings every week to support you in that work. So we have Akashic mentorship. So if you're taking the training, there's a mentorship every week that you can go to. And Larda Tetilaira is our guide there. She's done thousands of readings. She's taken our training. She was an Align Within reader for almost 2 years. 2 years? Almost 2 years. Yeah, it was 2 years actually. But now
Wow.
she's one of our guides, one of our mentors. And so she will hold as many people who come and answer questions. We have a light language mentor. Her name is Sarah Caston, so she does that. We have, yeah, once a week, there's Akashic Records, light language. We have cacao ceremonies on the full moon. We have sound journeys. My husband does those. He channels music for an hour. It's so healing and beautiful. I was crying yesterday with my daughter while we were listening to him play. And then we have seasonal shamanic ceremonies. And all of it is rooted within our work at Align Within as well. And then I have a satsang every Friday. I know you'll probably know the word satsang. That word came
Mm,
to me while I was beside this beautiful stream here. It's like the healing waters or something. Every time I go to that stream, something purifying and cleansing comes through. And I was told, you hold satsang. And I was like, I had this imposter syndrome. I'm like, how can I hold
hmm.
satsang? And I heard satsang is a group of people gathering for spiritual devotion. And that's what you're doing. So
Yeah.
we have satsang every Friday. And I teach there. I answer questions. We come together. There's many tears flowing usually. There's music we love, and it's the most beautiful program because you have accountability. I know that in the past, when people would join our membership, they would look and there's all these workshops and trainings, and like, where do I begin? Well, we've made that easy for you. Every month we work through something together. I send out 2 emails a month called The Tools, which is another curated list of supports and how we're working through the work, mantras, rituals, practices, all kinds of things. Every week we go through a certain module together, then we come into satsang, then you have all these other gatherings that offer you different ways of support, plus the community. It's so cool. That's
Wow.
all I'll say. It's so cool. It's such a beautiful program that's been created that is very Aquarian because we're not meant to heal alone. As you
Yeah.
said, you've created a program that's touched hundreds, thousands. We're not meant to heal alone. And when we can allow ourselves to see ourselves in another, suddenly we don't feel alone, but also light shines on places we weren't looking before. Like
Wow.
we have this accountability. We have this, my husband and I, we have this beautiful partnership and we're in the work deep together every single day, but we shine light on one another and we essentially show each other the blind spots. And
Yeah.
if you're on this journey by yourself, you have no one supporting you in that way. And you're meant to heal together because we are one. So, open invitation to Guided. Everyone come to Guided.
Wow. Sounds like an amazing community. And in this spiritual journey, we do we do need guidance, right? We need support. We need and I know there's a lot of people out there looking for these type of communities. So I will include all of that in the show notes.
Thank
Reach out if you need the support. Actually, I should have told this at the beginning, but I always like people, any guest at the end, to I'll ask them if they have any journal prompts, anything that maybe will help the listener to go deep on their journey. Anything comes to mind for you to share with our listeners?
you. Anything that's in your mind in this moment, write it on a paper and then step back and see the distance. See that the thoughts that are running through you are not you. You can create space. See that the emotions running through are not you. You can create space. Even the messages running through are not you. You can create space. You are at that place of stillness that is unchanged. And when you can see that distance, allow that to be a resting point so that you can find that peace and stillness. And from there is clarity.
Wow, I love it. Love it. So, so beautiful. Um, and yeah, anybody that wants to connect with me, book an Akashic reading, Akashic training, find out more about the mentorship, please do reach out. For me, this podcast episode feels like I'm coming full circle.
Mm-hmm.
This podcast I started when I was inspired to, and has been a blessing. And actually having you on when you had such a big impact, and you probably didn't even know me at the time. I know we've spoken a few times since. Yeah, I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I remember reading your emails when your mentor had left her body. I remember them. I remember reading
Wow.
them. So that's why I mean, like, coming here, that's not Ashley. It's a gift of seeing that I remember people, but that energy is within, aligned within. And I'm grateful that you have been able to feel at home within our space and have then gone on to shine your light in your own space. It's beautiful. It's exactly as it's designed to be. And so I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, as I close out, thank you to all our listeners. Thank you to this space. Sending love and light out to everybody. And I'm going to hand over to Ashley to close us out.
Oh, wow, pressure. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, everyone, for listening and for being here and for welcoming me into this space. I'm a guest here, and I look forward to seeing you in satsang.
Thank you, everybody. Bye for now.